Captain Sarah adjusted her simple brown jacket as she stepped off the transport shuttle onto the sprawling deck of Nexus Prime, the galaxy's largest trading station. The massive structure orbited the neutral planet of 442b, serving as the unofficial capital of interstellar commerce. Ships from dozens of species docked at its countless ports, their crews haggling over everything from exotic spices to advanced technology. Sarah's plain appearance drew little attention from the bustling crowds. At 28, she stood average height for a human, with short black hair and practical clothing that suggested modest means. Most aliens barely glanced at her as she navigated through the maze of merchant stalls and trading floors. Humans were still relatively new to galactic society, having joined the Interstellar Trade Federation only 15 years ago, and they were generally considered a minor species with limited economic influence. The young woman made her way toward the high-security section of the station, where military contractors and weapons dealers conducted their business. Here, the atmosphere grew more serious. Armed guards from various species monitored the area, and conversations were conducted in hushed tones. Sarah approached the reception desk, where a tall clerk with blue-scaled skin and 4 arms processed visitor credentials. "Purpose of visit?" the clerk asked in heavily accented Standard Galactic, not bothering to look up from his data pad. "I'm looking to purchase a battle cruiser," Sarah replied calmly. This got the clerk's attention. His large yellow eyes focused on her with obvious skepticism. "A battle cruiser? Do you understand what you're asking for, human? These are military-grade vessels worth hundreds of millions of credits." "I'm aware," Sarah said, maintaining her polite tone. "I have the necessary authorization from the Human Colonial Authority, and I'm prepared to discuss payment terms." The mandibles clicked in what Sarah recognized as amusement. "Very well. Dock 7 houses Defense Industries. They might have something in your price range." His tone suggested he doubted she could afford anything more than a shuttlecraft. Sarah thanked him and headed toward Dock 7. The Defense Industries showroom was an impressive display of military hardware. Holographic projections showed sleek destroyers, massive dreadnoughts, and the crown jewel of their collection, the Sovereign-class battle cruiser. The ship stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, bristling with particle beam arrays, missile launchers, and shield generators capable of withstanding planetary bombardments. A sales representative approached her. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed under the showroom lights. His compound eyes examined Sarah with barely concealed disdain. "I am sales director. You appear to be lost, small human. The civilian transport section is on level 12. "Actually, I'm interested in purchasing one of your battle cruisers," Sarah replied, gesturing toward the Sovereign-class projection. Santeni twitched in what Sarah interpreted as suppressed laughter. "The Sovereign class? That vessel costs 800 million Federation credits. Perhaps you would prefer to examine our cargo hauler models." 800 million, Sarah repeated thoughtfully. "Is that the base model, or does it include the full weapons package and advanced sensor suite?" This demeanor shifted slightly. Few beings asked such specific questions without some understanding of military hardware. The base configuration includes standard armaments. The full military package would bring the total to approximately 1.2 billion credits. Sarah nodded. "What about bulk pricing? I'm actually looking to purchase multiple vessels." Now's attention was fully engaged. "Multiple? How many units are we discussing?" "Well, I was hoping to start with about 20 battle cruisers, maybe 30 if the price is right. Then we'd need support vessels, destroyers, frigates, supply ships. Probably looking at a complete fleet package." The showroom grew quiet. Other customers and sales representatives had overheard the conversation and were now staring at the seemingly ordinary human woman discussing the purchase of an entire naval fleet as casually as someone might order coffee. His voice became more respectful. "Such a purchase would require extensive negotiations and verification of funding. Are you representing a human government?" "Not exactly," Sarah said. "I'm from the 186F colony. We've recently come into some resources and decided it was time to upgrade our defense capabilities." The mention of 186F sent murmurs through the crowd. Most galactic citizens knew little about human colonies beyond Earth, but those in the trade industry had heard rumors about unusual mineral discoveries in human-controlled space. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion in private," suggested, gesturing toward a luxurious conference room. "Would you care for refreshments while we review your requirements?" As they settled into the conference room, activated a holographic display showing various ship configurations. "Before we proceed, I must ask about your budget parameters. Even with bulk pricing, a fleet of 20 Sovereign-class battle cruisers with full support vessels would cost approximately 30 billion credits." Sarah considered this for a moment. 30 billion. Yes, that should be manageable. Is that including the extended warranty and maintenance packages? This compound eyes widened. In his 40 years of military sales, he had never encountered a customer who discussed 30 billion credits as merely manageable. Most planetary governments require decades of budget planning for such expenditures. Yes, we can include comprehensive service packages. However, I must verify your funding sources before we can proceed. Such transactions require extensive documentation. Sarah reached into her jacket and a small data pad. "Of course, here are my banking credentials and authorization codes. You'll find everything in order." Accepted the data pad with trembling claws. As the information loaded onto his system, his antennae began to vibrate rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation or excitement in. The banking records showed an account balance that made him question whether his translation software was malfunctioning. This cannot be correct," he stammered. "Your personal account shows a balance of 785 billion credits." Sarah glanced at the display. "Oh, that's just my discretionary spending account. The colony's main treasury has considerably more, but I didn't want to go through all the bureaucratic approval processes for a simple equipment purchase." The room fell silent except for the gentle hum of the station's life support systems. Stared at the young human woman who had just referred to nearly 800 billion credits as her discretionary spending account and a 30 billion credit fleet purchase as simple equipment. "Miss," he said carefully, "I believe we should involve our senior management in these discussions. A purchase of this magnitude would make your colony one of our largest clients." Sarah smiled. "That would be wonderful. I was also hoping to discuss establishing a regular supply contract. We're expecting significant growth over the next few years and will need to expand our fleet accordingly." As rushed to contact his supervisors, word of the extraordinary human customer began to spread throughout Nexus Prime. Communications officers sent priority messages to their home offices. Traders gathered in small groups to discuss the implications, and intelligence agents from various species began making discreet inquiries about the human colony of 186F. Within hours, the galactic financial networks were buzzing with speculation. How had a small human colony amassed such wealth? What did this mean for the balance of power in their sector of space? And most importantly, what did the humans plan to do with a fleet of battle cruisers? Sarah, meanwhile, remained in the conference room, patiently reviewing ship specifications while executives hurried to arrange an unprecedented sales meeting. She had expected some surprise at her financial capabilities, but the level of shock seemed excessive. After all, she was only looking to spend her pocket money on some basic defensive equipment for her home. The young woman had no idea that her casual shopping trip was about to reshape galactic politics and challenge every assumption the older species held about humanity's place in the interstellar community. In her mind, she was simply doing what any responsible citizen would do when their home needed protection, and they had the means to provide it. As evening approached on Nexus Prime, representatives from the galaxy's most secure communication channels of the Galactic Council buzzed with urgent transmissions as news of Sarah's shopping expedition spread across the galaxy. Within 12 hours of her initial inquiry at Defense Industries, emergency sessions were being called in government chambers throughout known space. On the crystalline world of Prime, the High Command convened in their pyramid-shaped council chamber. Admiral's blue scales shifted to a darker hue as he reviewed the intelligence reports flowing in from Nexus Prime. A single human colony possessing nearly 800 billion credits in liquid assets, he announced to the assembled military leaders. This exceeds the annual defense budget of most sectors. How did our intelligence networks miss this development? Intelligence Director's four arms gestured dismissively. The humans have been remarkably secretive about their colonial activities. Our sources suggest this 186F colony has been operational for less than 5 years. Even our best economic analysts cannot explain how they accumulated such wealth so rapidly. What concerns me more, interjected Defense Minister L, is their apparent desire to purchase military hardware. A fleet of battle cruisers in human hands could shift the balance of power in three-star systems. Meanwhile, in the floating cities of the Cetacean Federation's Council of Elders gathered in their vast underwater amphitheater. The whale-like aliens communicated through complex harmonic patterns that resonated through the water-filled chamber. Elders' deep song carried undertones of concern. The humans seek instruments of war, yet their colony registers show only mining operations and agricultural development. What do they mine that yields such abundance? Elder responded with rapid clicks and whistles. Our deep space sensors detected unusual energy signatures from the system approximately 18 months ago. The readings were unlike anything in our databases, not fusion power, not antimatter reactors, something entirely new. The youngest elder, Nereid, added her voice to the discussion. Perhaps we should approach the humans directly. Their species has shown remarkable adaptability and innovation. They might possess technology that could benefit all Galactic Federation members. Similar conversations were taking place across the galaxy. The proud Draconian Empire, whose reptilian warriors had dominated military affairs for 3 centuries, found themselves questioning their own intelligence-gathering capabilities. How had a species barely 20 years into managed to accumulate resources that rivaled their own ancient treasuries? Back on Nexus Prime, Sarah remained blissfully unaware of the political storm she had triggered. She sat in Defense Industries' executive conference room, reviewing detailed specifications for shield generators and tactical computer systems, while a parade of increasingly senior company officials attempted to process her order. CEO himself had arrived from his iridescent chiton reflecting the conference room's soft lighting. As the head of one of the galaxy's largest military contractors, he had presided over arms deals with entire civilizations, but never had a single individual walked into his showroom with enough personal wealth to purchase a significant portion of his company's annual production. Miss, began carefully, I hope you'll forgive my directness, but your colony's financial situation has attracted considerable attention throughout the galaxy. Many governments are curious about how 186F achieved such prosperity. Sarah looked up from the technical manual she was studying. Oh, it's quite simple, really. We discovered a remarkable mineral deposit about 2 years ago, very efficient energy storage properties, much better than standard power cells. The galactic commodity market has been quite eager to purchase our output. The CEO's antennae twitched. Might I ask what type of mineral? We call it, Sarah replied matter-of-factly. It's a crystalline structure we've never seen before. 1 kilogram can store roughly the same amount of energy as a small fusion reactor produces in a week. The Federation's energy companies have been offering premium prices for our production. Felt his respiratory systems flutter. Energy storage had been the limiting factor in galactic technology for centuries. Faster-than-light travel, planetary defense shields, even personal electronics, all were constrained by the weight and inefficiency of current power storage methods. If the humans had discovered a material that could revolutionize energy storage. How much of this has your colony produced? He asked, trying to keep his voice level. About 15,000 tons so far, Sarah said casually. Our geological surveys suggest we're sitting on approximately 2 million tons of recoverable deposits. The limiting factor is really our mining equipment. We've been using fairly basic extraction methods. The room fell silent, quickly calculated the implications. 15,000 tons of a material worth millions per kilogram would easily account for Sarah's massive bank balance. 2 million tons would make the human colony wealthier than most galactic civilizations combined. Miss, he said slowly, have you considered that such a discovery might attract unwanted attention? Pirates, hostile governments, species that might prefer to take you rather than purchase it. Sarah's expression grew more serious. That's exactly why we need the battle cruisers. Our current defenses consist of some automated satellites and a few patrol boats left over from the colonial settlement program. If someone decided to invade us, we'd have no chance of resistance. But surely the human colonial authority provides military protection for its colonies. They've offered to station a small garrison on our world, Sarah explained, but their forces are stretched thin across dozens of systems. Besides, we prefer to maintain our independence. Purchasing our own fleet ensures we can defend ourselves without relying on others. As if summoned by their discussion, the conference room's communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. Activated the display, revealing the stern features of Admiral of the Draconian Space Navy. CEO, the reptilian admiral began without preamble. The Draconian Empire has become aware of a significant arms transaction being negotiated at your facility. We wish to register our concern about the proliferation of advanced military technology to unestablished species. Glanced at Sarah, who was watching the exchange with curious interest. Admiral, I appreciate your concern, but defense industries operates in accordance with all Federation regulations regarding military sales. Nevertheless, Admiral continued, the Draconian Empire would be interested in discussing exclusive purchasing rights for any produced by human colonies. We are prepared to offer very generous terms. Sarah leaned forward. Excuse me, Admiral, but my colony's mineral rights are not for sale. We're quite satisfied with our current trading relationships. The Draconian's golden eyes fixed on Sarah. You are the human responsible for this situation. I am Admiral, Supreme Commander of the Draconian Third Fleet. Young species often fail to appreciate the complexities of galactic politics. Perhaps your colony would benefit from Draconian protection. That's very kind of you to offer, Sarah replied politely. But as I mentioned, we're purchasing our own defensive capabilities. I believe self-reliance is always preferable to dependence on others. Admiral's expression darkened. Self-reliance is a luxury few species can afford when they possess resources others desire. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for those who overestimate their own capabilities. Sarah's demeanor remained calm, but there was steel in her voice when she responded. Admiral, I appreciate your concern for our welfare. However, the people of 186F have faced dangers before. We've survived and prospered through our own efforts, and we intend to continue doing so. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving an uncomfortable silence in the conference room. Realized that what had begun as a simple arms sale was rapidly becoming a diplomatic incident with galaxy-wide implications. Miss, he said carefully, I should inform you that several other major powers have expressed interest in meeting with you. The Aquatic Federation has requested a formal audience. The High Command wishes to discuss trade agreements, and at least 6 other species have registered official inquiries about your colony. Sarah sighed. I was hoping to keep this simple. All I wanted was to buy some ships to protect my home. She paused, considering the situation. Very well, if others wish to discuss trade or diplomacy, I suppose I should be accommodating. But first, let's finalize our transaction. When can you deliver the battle cruisers? Despite the mounting political pressures, found himself smiling. He had dealt with countless military leaders and government officials, but never had he encountered someone who treated billion-credit purchases as routine business matters. Given the size of your order, we'll need approximately 8 months for production and delivery, he replied. However, I should mention that several governments have expressed concerns about the sale. There may be attempts to block or delay the transaction. Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. I see. In that case, perhaps we should accelerate our timeline. Would a 50% payment bonus help expedite production? Stared at her in amazement. She had just offered to pay an additional 15 billion credits to ensure faster delivery. Miss, with that kind of incentive, I believe we could complete your order in 4 months. Excellent, Sarah said, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. I'll transfer the funds immediately. Now, should we discuss establishing a permanent supply contract? I suspect we'll be needing more ships in the future. As news of the accelerated payment spread through the galaxy's intelligence networks, the human from 186F became the focus of increasingly urgent government discussions. The quiet young woman who simply wanted to protect her home had inadvertently triggered the largest shift in galactic power dynamics in decades. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other powers were beginning to take notice of 3 days after Sarah's unprecedented arms purchase. A small fleet of diplomatic vessels converged on Nexus Prime. Representatives from 8 major galactic powers had arrived to meet the human who had casually disrupted their carefully balanced political equations. The trading station's administrative staff worked frantically to accommodate the sudden influx of high-ranking officials, each demanding suitable quarters and security arrangements. Sarah found herself moved from the standard visitor accommodations to a luxury diplomatic suite, complete with round-the-clock security provided by Nexus Prime's neutral peacekeeping force. She appreciated the gesture, though she remained puzzled by all the attention her simple equipment purchase had generated. The first formal meeting was scheduled with Ambassador of the Aquatic Federation. The whale-like alien arrived in a specialized mobility tank that allowed her to participate in air-breathing environments while remaining in her natural aquatic medium. Her melodic voice resonated through underwater speakers as she addressed Sarah through the crystal-clear walls of her mobile habitat. Greetings, Sarah of 186F. The Aquatic Federation has observed your colony's remarkable prosperity with great interest. We believe our species could benefit from expanded cooperation. Sarah sat comfortably in the chair opposite the ambassador's tank. I'm always happy to discuss peaceful trade relationships, Ambassador. What did you have in mind? The Aquatic Federation controls vast underwater mining operations throughout our territory. We possess advanced extraction technologies that could significantly increase your production. In exchange, we would seek preferential pricing for a portion of your output. That's an interesting proposal, Sarah replied thoughtfully. Our current mining operations are indeed quite basic. However, I should mention that we've developed some innovative extraction methods that work particularly well with deposits. Perhaps we could share technologies rather than simply trading mining rights. Ambassador's song-like communication took on notes of surprise. You have developed new mining technologies. Most young species require centuries to advance beyond basic extraction methods. Sarah smiled. Humans have always been good at adapting existing tools for new purposes. When we discovered that responds to specific electromagnetic frequencies, our engineers modified conventional mining equipment to use harmonic resonance extraction. It's much more efficient than traditional methods. The ambassador's interest was clearly piqued. Advanced mining technology was closely guarded by most species, yet this human spoke of sharing it as casually as discussing weather patterns. Such cooperation would be unprecedented, Ambassador sang. The Aquatic Federation values innovation and mutual benefit. We would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with 186F. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of a diplomatic courier, whose 4 arms gestured with obvious agitation. Forgive the intrusion, but Admiral of the High Command requests an immediate audience with Miss. It is a matter of galactic security. Within minutes, Sarah found herself in a secure conference room facing Admiral via holographic projection. The blue-scaled military leader's expression was grim. Miss, our intelligence services have detected unusual movements in the hegemony. They appear to be mobilizing their raider fleets toward human space. We believe your colony's wealth has attracted their attention. Sarah's expression grew serious. The hegemony was known throughout the galaxy as a confederation of pirate clans that had somehow achieved political legitimacy. They controlled several marginally habitable star systems and survived primarily through raiding and extortion. How many ships are we talking about, Admiral? Approximately 60 vessels of various classes. Nothing that could threaten a major world's defenses, but more than sufficient to overwhelm a lightly defended colony. The Republic would be willing to provide protection in exchange for certain trade considerations. Sarah considered this information carefully. I appreciate the warning, Admiral, but as I mentioned earlier, we prefer to handle our own defense. How long until these raiders reach our system? Given their current trajectory, approximately 2 weeks. Then we have plenty of time to prepare. Thank you for the intelligence. Admiral's scales shifted color slightly. Miss, I fear you underestimate the threat. 60 warships represent a formidable force, even for established military powers. Perhaps, Sarah replied calmly, but you may be underestimating human preparedness. Before the Admiral could respond, another interruption came in the form of an urgent transmission from CEO at Defense Industries. Miss, the executive's voice carried notes of distress. I'm afraid I must report a serious complication. The Draconian Empire has filed an injunction with the Galactic Trade Arbitration Board, claiming that our military sales to your colony violate interstellar arms control agreements. Sarah sighed. What exactly are they claiming? They argue that selling advanced military hardware to an unestablished species without proper galactic oversight creates a destabilizing influence. The arbitration hearing is scheduled for next week. How long would such proceedings typically take? Months, possibly years. The Draconians are known for their bureaucratic expertise. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then smiled. I don't suppose there's any precedent for expedited hearings in cases of imminent threat. Well, yes, but you would need to demonstrate that the weapons are required for legitimate defense against immediate danger. Admiral's hologram suddenly spoke up. Miss, if you're considering using the threat to justify expedited arbitration, I should warn you that the Draconians have significant influence over the arbitration process. They may attempt to use the delay to pressure you into accepting their protection. Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. Admiral, would the Republic be willing to provide sworn testimony about the threat? Certainly, but I must reiterate our offer of protection. Even if you receive your ships in time, 60 enemy vessels will find us better prepared than they expect, Sarah finished. Admiral, with respect, I believe you're making the same mistake everyone else seems to be making. Which is? You're assuming that because humans are new to galactic society, we're helpless without external protection. That because our colony is small, we're defenseless. That because we're young as a species, we're naive about warfare. Admiral's large yellow eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that your colony possesses defenses we're unaware of? Sarah stood and walked to the conference room's viewport, gazing out at the busy traffic around Nexus Prime. Admiral, my people didn't discover by accident. We've been conducting extensive geological and technological research since establishing our colony. Did you know that doesn't just store energy efficiently? It also releases that energy in very precise, controllable ways. The implications of her words slowly dawned on both the Admiral and the CEO. Was the first to speak. Miss, are you saying your colony has developed weapons technology based on? I'm saying that when you have access to revolutionary energy storage, many technological possibilities become available. Our mining equipment isn't the only thing we've improved. Ambassador, who had been listening to the conversation through her tank's communication system, added her melodic voice to the discussion. The Aquatic Federation's sensors detected unusual energy signatures from your system. We assumed they were related to industrial operations. Some of them are, Sarah confirmed. Others represent defensive preparations we've been making since our second year of operation. We learned early that prosperity attracts attention, and not all attention is friendly. Admiral leaned forward in his projection. What kind of defensive preparations? Sarah turned back to face the group. The kind that makes 60 Raider ships a manageable problem rather than an overwhelming threat. Admiral, I appreciate your concern, but the people of 186F didn't survive the challenges of establishing a successful colony by being helpless. We've simply been quiet about our capabilities while we developed them. But surely you can't match the firepower of an entire Raider fleet, protested. Sarah's smile carried a hint of steel. CEO, you've built your reputation on producing the galaxy's finest military hardware using conventional technology. What do you think becomes possible when you have access to energy storage that exceeds conventional systems by orders of magnitude? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If the humans had developed weapons technology based on their discoveries, conventional military calculations might no longer apply. Miss, Admiral said slowly, are you prepared to demonstrate these capabilities to galactic observers? Such a demonstration would certainly expedite your arbitration hearing and might discourage other potential threats. Sarah considered the request. I suppose it's time the galaxy learned that humanity didn't join interstellar society to hide in the shadows. Very well, Admiral. Invite whichever observers you think appropriate. When the Raiders arrive at 186F, they'll receive an educational experience about the dangers of underestimating humans. And if your defenses prove insufficient, Sarah's expression remained confident. Then I suppose I'll need those battle cruisers delivered even faster than planned. But Admiral, I have considerable faith in human ingenuity when properly motivated. As news of the planned demonstration spread through diplomatic channels, Military planners throughout the galaxy began recalculating their assumptions about human capabilities. The quiet species that had seemed so innocuous might prove to be far more formidable than anyone had imagined. And in the depths of space, the raider fleet continued its approach toward what they believed would be an easy conquest, unaware that they were flying toward a confrontation that would reshape galactic perceptions of human military potential. The Galactic Trade Arbitration Board had never convened an emergency hearing with such speed. Representatives from 12 major civilizations gathered in the massive crystalline chamber on Arbitration Station Alpha, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, harmonics, and translated speech. At the center of the chamber, Sarah sat calmly at the defendant's table, apparently unbothered by the political theater surrounding her. Chief Arbitrator Ara, an ancient ethereal whose translucent form shimmered with centuries of wisdom, called the session to order. This emergency hearing addresses the Draconian Empire's petition to halt military sales to the human colony of 186F. The petitioner claims such sales violate galactic stability protocols. Draconian Advocate General stood with typical reptilian dignity. Honored arbitrator, the evidence is clear. This human colony has amassed wealth through unknown means and seeks to purchase military hardware far exceeding their legitimate defense needs. 20 battle cruisers represent a force capable of threatening multiple star systems. Sarah's legal representative, a sharp-minded attorney named, rose to respond. The defense argues that these weapons are required for immediate protection against confirmed hostile forces. We present evidence of an approaching raider fleet threatening our client's home. Alleged threats, countered smoothly, that conveniently justify the very purchases we seek to prevent. How convenient that pirates appear just as this human seeks to arm herself. Chief Arbitrator Ara's form pulsed with consideration. The timing does appear fortuitous. Miss, do you have additional justification for your military requirements? Sarah stood slowly, her plain clothing and calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the ornate robes and formal presentations of the other participants. Honored arbitrator, if I may address the underlying concern directly. Proceed. The real issue isn't whether my colony needs these weapons. The real issue is whether the galaxy is ready to accept that humans are capable of responsibly wielding significant power. Sarah's voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Every argument against this sale boils down to the assumption that because we're young as a galactic species, we're somehow less trustworthy than older civilizations. His golden eyes narrowed. Experience brings wisdom. Young species often lack the perspective necessary for restraint. Do they? Sarah asked. Let me ask the assembled representatives, how many wars has humanity initiated since joining galactic society? How many aggressive actions have human colonies taken against their neighbors? How many times have humans used their economic success to coerce or threaten other species? A murmur ran through the chamber as delegates consulted their records. The answer was clear: 0. Sarah continued, now let me ask, how many of the established galactic powers in this room have engaged in military conflicts, territorial disputes, or trade wars within the past 50 years? The murmur grew louder as uncomfortable truths emerged. The Draconians alone had been involved in 6 border disputes during that. Miss said stiffly, past behavior doesn't guarantee future restraint. You're absolutely right, Sarah agreed. But it does provide evidence of character, and the evidence shows that humans have consistently chosen peaceful cooperation over aggressive expansion. Chief Arbitrator Ara's form brightened. An interesting argument. However, the concern remains that advanced weapons in untested hands could destabilize regional security. Sarah nodded respectfully. I understand that concern. That's why I propose a demonstration. What manner of demonstration? The raiders will arrive at 186F in 4 days. I invite galactic observers to witness our defensive response. If human actions prove aggressive or destabilizing, I'll submit to whatever restrictions this body deems appropriate. The chamber erupted in surprised discussion. His voice cut through the noise. This human proposes to fight 60 warships with a handful of obsolete patrol boats. This is either delusional bravado or a trap. Neither, Sarah replied calmly. It's confidence in human ingenuity and preparation. Admiral's holographic form materialized in the chamber. Honored arbitrator, the Republic offers to provide observer vessels for this demonstration. Our sensors will provide accurate documentation of the engagement. The Aquatic Federation also volunteers observer status, sang Ambassador from her mobile tank. One by one, other delegations offered to witness the upcoming confrontation. Even the Draconians, despite their opposition to the arms sale, agreed to observe what they clearly expected to be a humiliating defeat for human overconfidence. Chief Arbitrator Ara considered the proposals. Very well. This board authorizes a temporary suspension of the arms sale pending the outcome of the demonstration. If human defensive actions prove proportionate and responsible, the sale may proceed without further interference. Sarah bowed respectfully. Thank you, honored arbitrator. I believe the galaxy will find this educational. As the hearing concluded, delegates began making arrangements for the journey to 186F. Many viewed it as an opportunity to witness the limits of human capabilities firsthand. Others wondered what the quiet young woman knew that she wasn't revealing. 2 days later, an unprecedented gathering of observer ships assembled at the edge of the system. Vessels from 8 major civilizations maintained positions at safe distances, while their sensors locked onto the human colony world of 186F. Admiral reviewed his tactical displays aboard the flagship Resolute. Long-range sensors show minimal defensive installations around the colony. A few orbital platforms, some satellite networks, but nothing approaching military-grade fortifications. Ambassador's harmonic voice carried through the communications network. Our deep-field sensors detect unusual energy patterns throughout the system, but we cannot identify their source or purpose. On the Draconian observation vessel Pride of, Admiral studied intelligence reports with growing confidence. The humans possess 3 patrol vessels, a handful of defensive satellites, and whatever ground installations they've managed to construct. Against 60 raiders, they have no chance. As if summoned by his words, proximity alarms began sounding throughout the observer fleet. The raiders had arrived. 60 ships of various classes dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge, their hulls and mismatched weapons arrays marking them clearly as pirate vessels. The fleet included converted cargo haulers armed with salvaged weapons, modified escort ships bristling with missile launchers, and at their center, 3 genuine warships captured during previous raids. Fleet Commander surveyed the human system from his flagship, a converted heavy cruiser called Death's Prophet. Begin standard intimidation protocols. Open channels to the colony and demand immediate surrender of all stockpiles. The transmission reached 186F within minutes. Sarah's face appeared on its main screen from what appeared to be a modest government building. Behind her, the observer vessels could see ordinary civilians going about their daily activities with no sign of panic. Commander, Sarah said politely, I'm Sarah, acting administrator for this colony. I understand you wish to discuss our mineral resources. Bared his fangs in what passed for a smile. Little human, I don't wish to discuss anything. You will transfer all stockpiles to my vessels immediately, or my fleet will reduce your colony to ash. I appreciate the directness of your offer, Sarah replied, but I'm afraid we must decline. Our production is committed to existing contracts. The commander's laugh echoed across the communication channels. You face 60 warships with 3 patrol boats, and you speak of contracts. Surrender now, and I might allow some of your people to live as slaves. Sarah's expression grew sad. Commander, you've made a serious mistake. You've assumed that because we prefer peaceful solutions, we're incapable of defending ourselves. You've confused patience with weakness. I see only weakness, roared. Begin the attack, show these humans the price of defying the hegemony. The raider fleet surged forward, weapons charging as they accelerated toward the colony world. Observers throughout the system prepared to witness what most expected to be a brief and bloody demonstration of human limitations. But as the raiders crossed the system's asteroid belt, everything changed. The asteroids themselves began to move. The observer vessel sensor arrays lit up with readings that challenged every assumption about defensive warfare. What had appeared to be ordinary asteroids throughout the system revealed themselves as sophisticated weapons platforms, their rocky exteriors concealing powered systems that conventional military engineering. Admiral stared at his tactical display in amazement. Those aren't asteroids. They're mobile battle stations disguised as natural debris. On the Aquatic Federation observer ship, Ambassador's harmonic songs rose to excited peaks. The energy signatures are unprecedented. Each platform appears to contain more stored power than a typical. The Raider fleet suddenly found itself surrounded by threats they hadn't detected until it was too late. Hundreds of concealed weapons platforms emerged from asteroid camouflage, their cores powering systems that made conventional shields and weapons seem primitive by comparison. Commander watched in growing horror as his tactical systems tried to process the impossible readings. Impossible! Our scouts detected no significant defenses. Sarah's image appeared on his screen again, her expression now carrying the steel determination that had built a human colony on a distant world. Commander, you scouted for conventional defenses. We don't use conventional technology. The first demonstration of warfare proved devastating. Beam weapons powered by crystalline energy storage cut through Raider shields like tissue paper. Defensive barriers that should have required massive generators operated from single cores no larger than a human fist. Point defense systems fired continuously without pause, their energy reserves effectively unlimited. But it was the strategic implications that truly shocked the galactic observers. The humans hadn't simply built powerful weapons. They had reimagined the very nature of space warfare. By the depths, sang Ambassador, they've turned the entire system into a fortified position. The disguised weapons platforms weren't randomly distributed. They formed overlapping fields of fire that created kill zones throughout the system. Raiders attempting to flee found their escape routes blocked by platforms that had seemed like harmless space debris. Those trying to advance discovered that every asteroid belt, every debris field, every apparently empty region of space contained hidden threats. Commander made the only tactical decision available to him. All ships, emergency retreat, get us out of this system. But the humans weren't finished with their educational demonstration. As the Raider fleet turned to flee, Sarah's voice echoed across all communication channels. Commander, you came here to steal from peaceful people. You threatened to murder families and destroy homes. Did you really think we'd simply let you leave to try again somewhere else? The retreat routes that had seemed clear moments before suddenly bristled with weapons fire. The humans had anticipated the Raiders' escape patterns and positioned their concealed platforms accordingly. It became clear that they could have destroyed the entire enemy fleet within minutes of their arrival, but had chosen to demonstrate their capabilities instead. "This is impossible," roared as his shields failed under sustained fire from weapons that shouldn't exist. "How can a minor colony possess such technology?" Sarah's reply carried the quiet confidence of someone who had never doubted the outcome. "Because humans don't accept limitations. When we found, we didn't just see a valuable mineral. We saw the key to technologies that others thought impossible. When we built our colony, we didn't just think about farming and mining. We thought about how to protect everything we'd built." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 30 minutes. Half the Raider fleet was destroyed, while the remainder limped away with crippled ships and shattered confidence. Not a single human vessel had fired a shot. The entire engagement was conducted by automated defense platforms powered by revolutionary technology. In the aftermath, the galactic observers found themselves reassessing everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Admiral of the Draconian Navy spoke for many when he admitted, "We underestimated them completely. This wasn't just superior technology, it was superior strategic thinking." The emergency session of the Galactic Trade Arbitration Board convened within hours of the battle's conclusion. Chief Arbitrator Ara's translucent form pulsed with obvious excitement. "Miss, the demonstration has been most illuminating. The human defensive response was proportionate, effective, and showed remarkable restraint." Sarah bowed respectfully. "Thank you, honored arbitrator. We believe in using the minimum necessary force to achieve defensive objectives." Draconian Advocate General stood slowly, his earlier confidence completely deflated. "The Draconian Empire withdraws its objection to the arms sale. It appears our concerns were unfounded." "More than unfounded," Admiral interjected. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed most established military powers. Perhaps we should be seeking their protection rather than questioning their right to defend themselves." Sarah smiled at the irony. We appreciate the sentiment, Admiral, but as I've mentioned before, humans prefer cooperation to domination. We have no interest in becoming a galactic military power. But surely, pressed Ambassador, your technology could benefit all Federation members. The energy storage applications alone could revolutionize civilian infrastructure. We're quite willing to share our discoveries, Sarah confirmed. In fact, we've been hoping to establish research partnerships with other species. Our scientists believe that combining human innovation with galactic expertise could yield remarkable advances. CEO of Defense Industries found his voice. Miss, given what we've witnessed, do you still require our battle cruisers? Sarah considered the question thoughtfully. Actually, yes. Our defensive platforms are excellent for protecting our home system, but they're not mobile. If we're going to participate fully in galactic society, we need ships that can operate throughout Federation space. Besides, we've developed some improvements to your standard designs that might interest you. Improvements: power cores, enhanced shield generators, weapons systems with effectively unlimited ammunition capacity. Nothing that would upset galactic stability, but significant advances over conventional technology. The implications hit the military contractors immediately. Partnership with the humans could revolutionize the entire arms industry. Instead of selling weapons to humanity, they could collaborate in developing technology that would make their current products obsolete. As the formal proceedings concluded, Sarah found herself surrounded by representatives eager to establish diplomatic and trade relationships. The quiet young woman who had walked into a showroom looking for ships to protect her home had accidentally triggered a fundamental shift in galactic politics. Ambassador's melodic voice carried through the crowd. Miss, the Aquatic Federation would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with 186F. We believe your colony's approach to innovation and cooperation represents the best ideals of galactic civilization. Similar offers came from delegation after delegation. The humans' demonstration of restraint and responsibility had impressed even former skeptics. Rather than using their technological advantages for conquest or coercion, they sought partnership and mutual benefit. Admiral summarized the mood perfectly. Today, humanity has proven that true strength comes not from the weapons you possess, but from the wisdom to use them properly. The Republic would be privileged to call humans our allies. Sarah accepted the various diplomatic overtures graciously, though she remained focused on her original goal. I appreciate all these kind offers, but I should mention that my primary authority is limited to equipment purchases. Formal diplomatic arrangements will need to be negotiated with our colonial government. And who heads your colonial government? Asked Chief Arbitrator Aura. Sarah's smile carried a hint of embarrassment. Well, actually, that would be me. We're a small colony, so we tend to handle multiple responsibilities. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral's rumbling laughter. This human commands weapons that could challenge our greatest fleets, controls wealth that rivals ancient treasuries, and leads a government that has just become the most sought-after ally in the galaxy. And she speaks as if these were minor administrative duties. Sarah shrugged. It's not really that complicated, we just do what needs to be done. As the various delegations dispersed to report these developments to their home governments, Sarah completed her original business with CEO. The battle cruiser order would proceed as planned, with the addition of human technological upgrades that would make them the most advanced vessels in galactic space. But more importantly, humanity had established itself as a major player in galactic affairs not through threats or aggression, but through competence, innovation, and ethical behavior. The young species that had seemed so insignificant just days before was now recognized as a civilization worthy of respect and partnership. Sarah returned to her modest quarters aboard Nexus Prime, finally able to complete her shopping trip. She had set out to buy some ships to protect her home, and in the process had reshaped humanity's relationship with the entire galaxy. As she prepared for the journey back to 186F, she reflected on the day's events. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but humanity had proven once again that with ingenuity, determination, and ethical purpose, any obstacle could be overcome. And somewhere in the deep reaches of space, other species were learning that the quiet humans who had seemed so unremarkable possessed qualities that made them the most remarkable civilization of all. the wisdom to be strong without being cruel, the intelligence to innovate without destroying, and the character to lead without dominating. The galaxy would never be the same. Its unexpected emergence as a major player on the galactic stage. Military contractors were already booking passage to the trading station. The human with the impossible bank account had everyone's attention, and they all wanted a piece of what promised to be the largest arms deal in recent galactic history.